All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to give everyone just a minute to get logged in, and then we're going to get started on today's webinar. But it is wonderful to have all of you with us today. As you guys know, my name is Ginger. I'm the Executive Director of Connectionology, and you are in for a treat today when you're going to meet Ryan and Ben and Viraj. And I definitely want you guys to ask questions. This will definitely be interactive, so you can put your questions in the Q&A box, and we'll keep an eye on those. And then later on in this webinar, you're going to meet our amazing partners over at On Point Legal Nurse Consulting, Fox AE, Strategic Relationships, as well as HMR. And then we do have some fun surprises and giveaways towards the end of the webinar. So be sure to stay tuned because we'll be giving away coffee, and we might be giving away some registrations to our Idaho TBI seminar coming up in 2 weeks, as well as your choice of going to our third annual Depositions, our trial seminar, which is going to be in Fort Worth Stockyards in November. So get ready for that, guys, because we're celebrating 450 plus webinars in the last 4 years that we started in April 4 years ago. So thank you again for joining us. And I'm going to go ahead and get started because I want to introduce Viraj, who's going to be helping speak as well as moderate today. And we are so excited to have him with us. You guys are going to meet this amazing man as well as this company called Finch. They're going to be out in Idaho with us. And he is one of the founders and the CEO of Finch. You'll hear all about them today. But previously, he spent 8 years as an early employee and a veteran of DoorDash, where he spent several years building all of their services and tools that were helping support their growing restaurants, liquor stores, and retails all across the country to hit all of their big goals. But now he brings a lot of his experience to plaintiff law. He's building a team of elite operators from firms like Morgan & Morgan, who we all know, as well as Brandon Broderick, plus technology to help all of these firms nationwide up-level their pre-litigation. So Viraj, it is so wonderful to have you with us today. We're going to have a lot of fun, and we're going to learn a lot about AI, aren't we?
We are. Ginger, I don't know if I could have asked for a better hype woman. So thank you for the very resounding intro. I'll promise to do the same for Ryan and Ben, but thank you all for having us. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you.
I'll share screen. We'll go into slides, but as Ginger said, we would love questions and answers. We will take them as they come in via the chat, Q&A feature, whatever you choose. So go for it and we'll go live. But let me introduce the rest of our panelists right now. So we're going to talk about scaling your PI practice with AI-assisted pre-litigation. This is large. I think everyone here has probably had some glimpse of AI tools. And so you will see some familiar ones. You will see some probably new ones. Ben's reputation will speak for himself, but he kind of stays on the cutting edge of what's available in the AI landscape. So we're excited to share some of this. Ask any questions. Our goal, we at Finch run pre-litigation in an automated way for a lot of firms, but we're going to do mostly talking about like generically what exists today rather than going deep on like pitching or selling Finch. So ask us any questions about how this relates to your practice, not just about how we operate. As an intro to this team, Ginger nailed my name, but for those who would struggle to pronounce it, rhymes with garage, begins with a V. My name is Viraj, co-founder of Finch along with Ben. Previously spent 8 years at DoorDash as a designer and product manager, working on new verticals, kind of like alcohol and pickup. So folks have used DoorDash before for their food emergencies. If you used it for any non-food emergencies, that was probably me. Ben is CTO and co-founder of Finch with me. He has his master's in artificial intelligence from Stanford. He got it in 4 years because he's an overachiever. After graduating, he spent 6+ years at Google and 3+ years at a startup called Catch. And then Ryan, founding attorney at Hecht Law firm, previously spending 3 years at Doyle and Silvac, 4 years at another firm. I'll let him talk through his track record on his own in a second, but these are your familiar faces for the next hour and a half. Agenda of what we're going to go through today. Ryan's going to start by talking about some of the challenges he had in scaling a solo firm. Ben's going to talk about what's possible with AI today. Again, some of this will be familiar, some will be new. And I'll talk a little bit about in our experience working with a bunch of firms across the country, what we've seen as like an upgraded or modern pre-litigation stack. We'll end with Q&A. We're also going to have words from sponsors throughout. So excited to have fun here. With that, I'll hand off to Ryan to talk about the challenge of scaling a solo firm. I'm going to be moderating, so there's a chance that I jump in and ask Ryan questions just to make this a little more engaging than a monologue. So you'll still hear from me. But Ryan, take it away.
Thanks, Viraj. Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Hecht. I'm a plaintiff personal injury attorney based in Austin, Texas, and got a license in California as well. Today, I'm going to talk to you a bit about my experience starting my own firm, as well as meeting and working with Finch. A bit of background about me. I went to the University of Texas at Austin for undergrad, and then straight through to law school at the University of Houston. Not sure if I was mentally prepared for that, but I went straight through. After law school, I initially started out doing plaintiff side work at a firm in the Bay Area based in the Bay Area called Schneider Wallace Cottrell Konecki. There, I did a lot of complex lit, mostly class action. As a junior associate there, I was helping senior associates and partners with mainly research and motion practice. After about 3 years there, I always knew I wanted to get back to Austin. I love Austin. It's where a lot of my family and friends are. So got back there and joined a defense firm, Doyle and Seelbach. And there it was pretty great. As a third-year associate, they basically let me just run my entire docket. So this is kind of where I got some great litigation experience, from answering the petition to the trial. They kind of let me just run the docket, which was great. I also knew, I was pretty sure, once I finished law school, that eventually I wanted to try and start my own firm. And after those 3 years at Doyle and Seelbach, once I was comfortable with my litigation experience, I finally just decided to jump. And a year and a half later, it's the best decision I think I've made in my career. When I launched my firm, Hecht Law Firm, PLLC, I quickly realized two things. First thing is no one tells you how to start a business or run one. You don't learn how to get a tax ID in law school, and you definitely don't learn how to get cash flow when your cases won't settle for 6 to 24 months. I hit the pavement. I networked like crazy, which fortunately I think is one of my strengths. I enjoy it. I also knew I had more actual litigation and courtroom experience than a lot of PI attorneys my age, which I believe has allowed me to stand out in the sort of referral-based network, because a lot of these bigger volume firms know that, or they're comfortable with me sort of taking their cases to trial if necessary. The second thing I realized pretty quickly once I started getting cases is that I didn't really know how to work a case pre-lit. That's a problem if you're a personal injury lawyer. At my first plaintiff firm, which was mainly class action, like I said, I was basically helping senior associates and partners with research and motion practice, and I had paralegals. There was other admin, case managers, intake support. Then at my defense firm, as an associate, you typically don't see anything pre-lit because I don't see a case until my client is served, typically. And again, this firm had paralegals, legal assistants, intake staff, accounting, and HR. They also had nurse paralegals who created medical chronologies. Now, as I'm getting more cases, I'm starting to have my first uh-oh moment. That's the PG version, as I'm collecting more cases. And it's just me at this point. So towards the beginning, as I was trying to get as many cases as I could, looking back, I definitely wish I had not taken a few of these cases that I had taken on, but I think this is just part of the learning curve. So right now it's just me. I'm networking and hustling to get more cases. I'm doing the intake by myself, evaluating the cases to see if we really want to move forward. signing my clients up, including the attorney-client contract and the HIPAA authorization, setting my clients up for treatment, collecting medical and billing records, sending out letters of representation, figuring out if there's insurance, gathering all the information I can through investigation, and finally compiling all this information to most likely create a demand letter that I like to do before I file suit. On top of all this, I'm working all my cases in litigation by myself. This is a good problem to have as a business owner, but I quickly realized that I was reaching a point where I can't take any more cases, not because there wasn't demand or networking opportunities, but because I didn't have the infrastructure. Moreover, I'll be honest, my work product was suffering. I'm now spending hours and hours on intake, pre-lit, drafting demands, which, as you know, can take an enormous amount of time, depending on the complexity of the case and the number of records. It's hard opening and running a firm. So when I reached this point, I'm realizing that I needed help, and I needed help about a month ago, but I really need it now. So I posted a position for a pre-lit / litigation paralegal on LinkedIn, fully remote. Quickly, I got about 8 applicants. I went through their resumes. There was 3 that stood out to me. One of them was very nice, but was about to finish law school and said she probably was going to become a lawyer soon. One who had great experience, but only wanted to work part-time or less. And the one I ended up hiring was very nice in her interview, fluent in Spanish, and told me she had about 7 years of substantive litigation experience. And that's really what I was looking for, a paralegal that could actually help me with litigation. Looking back, I maybe should have stressed pre-litigation, but I'm still learning how to grow this firm. The one I hired, when she started a few weeks later, it took me about a day and a half to realize, unfortunately, that she actually didn't have any substantive litigation experience, like she said in her interview and her resume. Now I've got even more work, and I'm feeling awful that I have to let this person who I just hired, I have to let her go a few days after she started. And this isn't just a solo firm problem. Even now that I've scaled, I've learned great staff is hard to find. Every firm, big or small, struggles with this pre-litigation bottleneck. And this is where Finch comes in. Before I met with Viraj and Ben, I tried everything. I tried outsourcing to other part-time paralegals, contractors, other tech platforms that promised automation. None of it actually worked as well as I needed it to until I met Ben and Viraj and saw what Finch was building. Finch is an AI-powered pre-litigation support system. Finch handles everything from intake to demand. You send a case to Finch and it gets worked up. Medicals, summaries, sign-ups, draft demands, and all of it with impressive accuracy and speed. I was using another company you may have heard of, Even Up, which is good. Finch's demands are just as good, if not better. While again, Finch does everything from intake through the demand. The amount of time this saves me is unbelievable. The leverage Finch has given me is hard to describe. It's the kind of back-end infrastructure I did not think I would have at this point in my firm's career life. And without the sort of overhead or hiring headaches. It's been great using Finch. Since implementing them, I'd say my firm has grown about 20 to 40% month over month in terms of caseload. With the help of Finch helping me with most, if not all, of my pre-litigation, it basically gives me the time to network more and get more cases. It's allowed me to tap into my California license. I've been sort of networking more out there, strengthening my relationships with my Texas contacts and creating new ones. It also allows me to focus more on litigation, where I'd say I'm strongest. And finally, settling some of these big cases that I wouldn't have had the capacity to push through without this back-end support from Finch. Why this matters. Tech is here. AI is here. And I'm just a lawyer. I believe most of you are just lawyers, but it's something I wish I knew even sooner. We're now in this era where tech allows me, a solo attorney with one in-house paralegal, to handle the same amount of cases a firm at least double the size that doesn't use any tech tools, not using services like Finch. Finch is a tool built by people who understand lawyers and built for lawyers who want to build their business, focus on litigation and less administrative work. I'm not just here to talk about the future. I'm using it. And it's giving me my time back to work on the cases that matter and grow the business I set out to build. Thank you for having me, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Looks like there might be some questions. No. Thank you.
We got a hello from litigation. Hello, Kim. And I think you answered Melvin's question already, which was on different tools you might use for demand writing.
I don't see that.
I marked it as answered because you answered it live because you were just spot on with your topics. I'll transition over to Ben, but I'll just say thank you, Ryan. Kind words. Ben and I, who represent Finch, are going to do a lot less talking about exactly what we do at Finch, but Hecht is the best ever. And we'll talk a little bit about kind of what we pattern matched across a bunch of the firms we work with and what we see as kind of like a modern stack for pre-litigation. We're going to start with a little bit of more of an intro to AI tools that exist today. Sorry, I saw one more Q&A come in. Just check what it is. Elizabeth, does Finch help with ordering records and billing for the demand as well? We do. I'll cover a little more of what we do at the end, but yeah, it'll be intake, claims opening, and LOR sending, and managing insurance, managing liens, medical and billing records, police records, and then demand. We'll talk through it. But once I know more about what Finch is, I'll have more questions for Ryan. Good. Yeah, Ryan will be around the whole time. So let's do Ben. We'll talk a little bit about what's possible with AI today.
Cool. Yeah. So this is my background. Got my master's in AI at Stanford about 10 years ago. Went out, worked at Google. Very exciting period to be at Google. And then most recently was a founding engineer at another tech startup. Transitioning to a founding engineer salary from a Google salary is a hit. So something that I started doing on the side actually was working as a technical consultant for a law firm here in New York. And that was actually my initial introduction to the legal space and how I initially got interested and eventually connected to the folks here. So that's a little bit about my background. And first, I'll just kick off. Everyone here probably knows what artificial intelligence is, but it's useful to talk over it and give a reminder, which it refers to computers doing things that normally require human intelligence. These are things like understanding language, recognizing patterns, making decisions. And 10 years ago, when I was in my master's program, this mostly meant that AI was beating me at chess and it very intelligently autocorrecting Viraj's name to viral whenever I would send it in a text. AI can still do those things and still, I still lose every time and I still introduce people to my friend viral. But there was actually a major transformation that happened in 2017 at Google while I was actually working at Google, which was the introduction of the transformer architecture. And this is what ChatGPT is built on top of. And it actually for the first time, made something called generative AI good. It was fast, it was coherent, and scalable. And so there's this question: what is generative AI? It's type of AI that instead of doing classification problems or beating you at games, it actually creates new content. And this means that it can write text, it can draw images, it can compose music, it can write code, which has made my job a lot easier in certain ways. It can produce videos. And this is all based on patterns that it's learned from vast amounts of data. I don't know if anyone here knows the company Scale AI. My wife actually works at Scale AI. They hire PhDs, experts in subjects to help train the models, help train these foundation models that companies like OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, Microsoft, XAI, all these big companies are getting experts to train these models and make sure that and rapidly increase their ability to actually produce really valuable insights. And this is where I tried it and it wasn't very good. Comes in. If I can really drive home one point today, it is the slope of these tools. The rate at which these tools are getting better, both the underlying tools and the actual products built on top of them, it's remarkable. It is so exciting to be building in this space right now, where every week, it's honestly every single week, there is a major breakthrough. There's something that's released that is a total game changer. Last week, OpenAI released their best models to date with O3 and O4. These are reasoning models, which means that they can actually plan out the work they're going to do. The first step, they create a plan, and then they actually go execute on that plan. A couple months ago, Mistral AI launched OCR, or optical character recognition, that completely blew anything that anyone had done before out of the water. So if you'd used something that generated medical chronologies more than 2 months ago, you weren't. The technology today is twice as good, and so it's honestly remarkable to be seeing the pace of these things, and be you have to keep your ear to the ground and really stay in touch with these developments, because it's moving so fast. So this gets us a little bit into the question of how is this relevant to law? How is this especially relevant to personal injury? And again, it's driving home this point of it's moving very quickly, to the point where the tools that are good today or the tools that were good last year might not be the tools that are good next year, might not be the tools that are good in 2 years. So first, right now, I'll show a little demo of some of the things that AI can do today. Hopefully, these are kind of fun little demos. And then we'll get into the landscape. So I will share my screen, and hopefully we can.
While you pull that up, I'll answer Melvin's question. Melvin, okay, we're all talking about plaintiff's AI. What is the defense using Colossus 2? There are, which I love that question. There's a number of tools that are coming out. The one that I heard about yesterday that the trucking industry is doing is kind of like an insurance called Nirvana Insurance, which is very predicated on integrating AI all the way through. So it's a Colossus replacement. But yeah, I would assume that as much effort as is going into plaintiff's law, there's some healthy amount or percentage of that effort also going onto the defense side. We're still seeing what those tools are. I think they're a lot more loud and proud on the plaintiff side. So, I mean, as we are here, but there are those tools being built on the other end too for underwriting in the same way.
All right. So first, let's take a look at this. So this is helping on the intake call. Let's start at the top. So you can see, for example, this is going to be a sample call. And you can actually see, while this conversation is happening in real time, you're actually able to extract information off of this call and fill in an intake form. Something else that you can actually do is surface questions to the person who's on that call. Highlight any flags they might have missed. You can raise flags to the attorney to help qualify the lead. Again, this can all happen in real time. This can all happen after the call. Related to the pace of change, I think 6 months ago is when OpenAI released their real-time API that made this possible. So this is all moving very fast. Another one, let's pull up voice agents. So voice agents are developing incredibly quickly as well. I'll play a call for you all here, which is going to be a call to a medical center.
Physician providers or any other specialists.
Hello, this is the billing department at Bryan Medical Center. My name is Dean. How can I help you?
Hi, my name is Robin and I'm calling from Berry Law Firm. We have a client who was treated after an accident at the ER. We've requested the ER records but wondered if there are separate radiology providers, physician providers or any other specialists we might need to request records and bills from separately.
Yes, so both radiology and ER physicians need to be requested separately.
Thank you. Any chance you have the names and contact details for those providers?
Yep, I can give you those contact details if you just give me 1 second. That's going to be for the ER physicians at Nebraska Emergency Medicine. The phone number is going to be 904-870-9604. And then for radiology, it's Lincoln Radiology. The phone number is 877-662-4042.
Thank you. Would you happen to have their fax numbers as well?
Yeah.
So I'll pause that there. I expect you can tell we have a nice Australian accent to be extra friendly here. But that Robin was an AI voice agent speaking with a human there. And again, related to the pace of change, the velocity of change here, the company that provides those voice agents came out of stealth only 6 months ago. So this wouldn't have been possible more than 6 months ago. See what else we can show off here.
While Ben pulls that up, a fun note, we tested all the different accents and the Australian accent performs the best. We think it's because if someone is unsure, if there's like the littlest glimmer of it might be automated, you then kind of blame that the person's a little foreign and from Australia. So that does the trick.
See what we'll pull up next here. Demand drafting. We of course all know about the demand drafting tools. They really are everywhere now. And a lot of that is driven by the increase in value of the increase in quality of these foundation models that are making the AI better. One note though that I'll contribute from my experience of working with these and from seeing a lot of these demands come through, the AI alone isn't good enough today to make a great demand letter. You still need a human in the loop. You still need an expert that understands the state's policies. You still need an expert to make sure that verdict analysis is great, to check citations, to be doing that work. The tools are not. They're just not there yet. And so I'll say that's something that we do provide that. So we will have the first pass generated by AI, and then we have an expert who deeply understands demand letters going in and actually reviewing the final demand. But I can pull up what that will actually look like if I can find it. Maybe I can. 1 second here. And questions are coming in. Address those.
I'm going to answer some.
There it is.
Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, Melvin, is your question who other than you does demand? Is that right? Like, what are the other services that do it? No. You wrote Mo. Oh wait, yeah. Sorry. Retap the question. Happy to answer it live. I'll let Ben go in the meantime.
Great. So this is an example of our flow. You'll see similar flows for companies like Filebind, like Even Up. But you can actually see you can configure the specific sections that you would want in a specific configuration of demand. For example, here for a motor vehicle accident, you say, these are the sections that I especially want to have. Up to the next speed here. You can actually go in and edit the configuration, and you can actually prompt for each section. For example, for injuries and treatment, you can give it a specific content prompt. You can give it specific formatting prompt and a formatting example to be custom to your specific firm. So if there's a certain way you like to see your demands formatted, if you have specific rules with regards to how you like to draft your specific sections, limitations, things you always like to include, things you might not want to include, rules that you want to configure for when to include or not to include things, you can add those. We have this proofreading check, which is checking for things like, are all the citations correct? Is the letter consistent? Are numbers changing along the way? And that's a proofreading step that you can actually run at the end to make sure that you're producing a good demand. Make sure that it's something that's ready to actually submit. And that's something that humans can run even after they edit it. That's not just something that's running during the AI step. And as you can see here, we've produced the full section. It includes citations to my very fake police report for the sake of the demo. And that links in. And so that enables the reviewer to actually go in and look at the source. Because the big risk here, I'll say a very big risk of trying to do this yourself, and we've seen it a lot with folks who are just putting data into ChatGPT and it's hallucinating, it's spitting out fake citations. Is basically these hallucinations are, and so you want to make sure that you can actually go back to the source, make sure what you're claiming is correct, and that's something that this proofread is also going to check. So here it's checking for state-specific language, which you might have seen that we added earlier. So I'll go ahead and pause this here, and stop that share. And then last one here are a lot of these like conversational agents, which are actually able to understand based on all of the data in your related to your case. Actually, this is totally fake. Some of you might recognize this name related to a certain individual at NVIDIA. But you can see again here, this is the totally fake police report that has a bunch of information in it. And you can actually pop this open. We call it Finch GPT. You see these conversational agents that are very useful, and you start to see chat popping up at several other companies as well. And this enables you to quickly identify information about your matters, about your cases, without spending dozens of minutes at a time diving deep into the documents, deep into the details. You can get a quick summary so that you can answer a question and get on with your day. Here we're going to go ahead and produce an actual table of medical damages. So that's going to go in, look at medical records that we have on file related to this case. And it's actually going to generate a table that we would be able to export and go analyze. So that's the end of these demos. I showed our versions of these. Of course, other companies as well are working on similar products. That's a little bit of a landscape of tools that are on the table for pre-lit.
Right, and I think, Ginger, we're going to pause now.
Yeah, this is a perfect time. And I see some really great questions coming in, so I cannot wait for us to get to those. And I just want to go back real quick to Ryan. Like, you blew me away. I mean, we've done so many of these webinars now. Like, it is so refreshing to hear somebody like you come in and just be so honest about everything that you've been experiencing, going through, starting the law firm. I related a lot to that as well here at Connectionology. So Viraj, I think you need to come up with something for me. But it's so great to see that. I bet we do a lot of webinars where we're highlighting a lot of people's verdicts across the countries, but we don't do enough of them where we're talking about maybe some hiccups they come across, or maybe some failures they had, or trials they lost, and the learnings and the examples that we can get from those. So if I can come up with some attorneys who are willing to do that, I will definitely start doing some more of those webinars as well. But for now, I just want to say thank you.
You're welcome.
Now I'm going to do a quick little introduction. We've got Taylor coming in with HMR. I wanted you guys to meet our amazing partners that we work with. You're going to see a lot of them at our conferences that we go to, but they have been here with us from the beginning. Taylor works for a great company called HMR, and he's going to share with you guys some of the good things that they do over there. But it is wonderful to have you with us today, Taylor.
Well, thank you as always for the warm and kind introduction, Ginger. I did want to start out by saying I don't have one of these Italian accents that these Chat GPT folks have, but I do sound pretty Cajun as I'm from South Louisiana. I'm the Southeastern Regional Manager for HMR, covering about 7 states, and we're a national medical funding company, but we also offer full service that I'll get into here in a second. But we've been doing this about 15 years. We're a national medical funding company for uninsured and underinsured injured plaintiffs. And I know a lot of you guys have I've been in this space for about 11 years. A lot of you guys have used us for the medical funding, where it's your most basic single study MRI to a catastrophic TBI or an amputation or a burn. These horrific cervical spine, and lumbar spine injury cases that we have funded. But really where we've hit a niche, in this industry is helping these folks from intake, right after, the wreck all the way to case resolution, not just in the medical funding, but, these guys are catastrophically injured. They're out of work for a substantial amount of time. Could be 6 months, could be 3 years, and they have no source of income. We're able to provide, the means for them to, pay rent or pay their car payments or pay a mortgage note, or pay their kids to go to school, since they haven't been able to work, and then to bundle everything up and make it all, nice and tidy at the end is now that what we've kind of branched off into is doing our case costs and expert funding, to pay for, your life care plans, your accident reconstructions, your demonstrative aids, to get Patrick to come testify live at trial, or some of these folks. It's not cheap, and we can pay for their services. So your law firm doesn't have to, you're not putting as much of a strain on your line of credit. I know it may sound cliche, but why use your own money if you could use ours? All I can ask for is, if you're ever in the, ballpark or having questions about funding, talking to your partners or your clients, I just wish we would be at top of mind with that. There's a reason we've been doing this 15 plus years in this industry. So, whether you use us on one case, no cases, or 100 cases, I do believe the moment you do try to utilize us, I believe we could help change the trajectory of your case and help prove your damage model.
I totally agree. Thank you so much, Taylor. And if you could put your information in the chat box, that way everybody can save it and reach out to you. We love working with you guys and all the team over at HMR. And I know Ted's going to be popping in later to do the big coffee winner giveaway, so I can't wait to see who wins.
Yep, and we'll see everybody in Idaho in a few weeks. So thanks a lot.
Looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Taylor.
All right, thank you, Ginger.
And now I see our good friend Patrick is here with us as well with On Point Legal Nurse Consulting. He's been a nurse for over 20 years now, and you guys have probably seen him speak on a lot of our webinars, including our nursing home abuse cases and things like that. But Patrick, it is great to have you with us today. And like I said, I know you've been doing this a long time, but I know we've got Dawn and Ingrid who've been doing this for 40 years, 30 years. And you guys have some great experience over there as well.
Well, thank you, Ginger. Nice to see you again. Nice to meet everyone. And Taylor, thanks for the plug for the trial experience. I appreciate it. So my name is Patrick Stonich. I'm one of the nurses and directors over here at On Point Legal Nurse and Experts. How we can fit in, I've been a nurse, like Ginger said, for 20 years. My background is in cardiac ICU at Thomas Jefferson University in Philadelphia. And then I moved out into community health for home health, hospice, and long-term care facility work. So it's a strange little change, of course, from the hospital out to the community, but I was On Point for about 9 years as a consultant, and then been with them for several years as one of the directors. Some of the things that we can do that kind of tag on after the demand letter is we provide experts. So we can provide medical experts, nursing experts like myself. We can do a lot of the medical chronologies that Finch does a fantastic product, which is wonderful. Our nurses, of course, have that analytical side that can look at the analysis of the data. And then, of course, state by regulations of standard of care, whether it's for home health, hospice, or long-term care, or any of the other personal injury needs out there. We do have 3 certified life care planners on staff. We do have medical cost analysis on staff. We have a bill review person that can analyze any bills out there. And then, of course, we have a wonderful staff of nurses that are here to just ask questions. Nurses like to talk a lot. We like to teach, and we're here. Easy questions, easy answers for you guys to reach out to us. We also do the world famous that John Romano always talks about is the pain and suffering report. It's been a big hit the last couple of years. We get a lot of requests for the pain and suffering reports, which is a non-economic damage report. The best way we like to describe it is it's a different perspective to our other expert reports. It's a nursing interview. It's a nursing process that they go through, interviewing the client and interviewing the family, and really getting to know what has happened to these individuals post-injury. So how has it changed their day-to-day life, how they're feeling, and they tend to answer questions to us differently than they're answering questions to attorneys. Nurses approach it a little bit differently. It's a wonderful report. They're comprehensive reports. If you need them to go to trial, certain nurses that we have will go to trial for those to defend those reports. But we're here to help. Connectionology, of course, has been fantastic and supportive for us over, I think I've done probably 200 of the 400. So been around for a while, and we're here to help. It's always great to see everyone, and the product that Finch has is fantastic. So, and we'll see you in Idaho.
No, I cannot wait for everybody to see each other. I am so excited. We've got 2 weeks left. So if anybody's interested in being spontaneous, you guys can go to our website, look at all the details, look at the agenda, and look at flights. Come on out there with us. It's going to be a wonderful, wonderful seminar. And Patrick, again, thank you so much for being here with us. Usually when I am talking with you on the phone, you are out traveling, you're going to a trial, you're testifying. So if anybody out there is in need of working with somebody like you, I hope they reach out. So thank you.
I appreciate it.
All right, we'll see you soon. And Viraj, back to you guys.
Back to us, Patrick. Those were just kind words. So thank you. So Ben, thank you for the demos. We'll go back and do a little more on Ben. There are some excellent questions in the chat. And so I'll just say a lot of them are about how Finch works. And the way we structured this was a little bit of like, let's just talk about AI and talk about operations and talk about Hecht. And at the end, we'll talk about how Finch works. So I'm going to save some of those at the end just so that we go through it all in one breath. I might answer some of them in the deck. Cool. But Ben, hand it back to you to talk about rest of AI.
Great. Thank you. Yeah. So in terms of the landscape, there are $5 billion worth of solutions out there. That $5 billion number is the amount that was invested into legal tech companies in 2024 alone. So that it was pure investment. And something that I'll say as a co-founder of a legal tech company, these VCs are throwing money at companies that are showing growth, right? That's venture capital. This capital is coming in. It's coming in because of adoption. Folks are adopting this faster than any other software that's ever been introduced into the legal landscape. If we look at, it's really hard. Different sources will tell you different numbers that vary by a lot. But from Smokeball, AI adoption was up to 53% in 2024 among small firms. Thomson Reuters up to 41% using publicly available generative AI tools, and only 17% using industry-specific tools. But 95% believe that generative AI will be central to their workflow within 5 years. So this is the window where you kind of have to adapt to survive. And folks see this, and that's why so many of these companies are coming about, kind of trying to capitalize on this. Talking over a few examples, we saw in 2023 Thomson Reuters acquiring Casetext for $650 million, which is legal research and drafting assistant powered by GPT. They're integrating that into their products. Lexis obviously, had to answer the call, so they had their Lexis Plus AI. We use Lexis ourselves, and then of course there are many folks kind of nipping at the heels of the big players. We see Harvey not on the PI side. We see folks like Even Up seeing enormous growth for demands specifically. And then we see a bunch of these other companies that have really kind of identified a specific gap, that have been able to identify a point solution, a major pain point, and they've gone in and they've solved it for a lot of people. So this is just a projection of what the landscape looks like today. Yeah, but of course there are limitations. Talking over some of the limitations here. hallucinations and errors. We talked about these a little bit earlier. This is also known as making things up. Hallucination is a kind way of putting it. But you really have to be careful with this. And this is a place where I think a lot of the tools that we referenced on the previous slide are very useful. If you're using vanilla ChatGPT, this next point as well, data security and confidentiality. You're not sure if your data is secure, if you're just putting it directly in ChatGPT. You don't know how to trust for hallucinations and errors. All of the companies that we mentioned earlier that might be here today, as well as ourselves, make sure that they've undergone a security review and that they're taking good care of your data, make sure that they're encrypting it. That's going to be really important, and it's a reason to make sure you're working with a trusted partner who understands how to use these tools effectively and safely. Another thing we've seen, which kind of plagues the software industry across the board, and I'm sure many of you resonate with this, is underutilization and difficulty with adoption. It's very difficult actually to train people to use a new workflow, to use a new software, and displace their existing workflows. People say, I already know how to do this. I don't need a new tool to help me with it. And so many folks will actually bring on a software vendor and realize that adoption rates are low. Maybe the 15 to 30% range are numbers that we see a lot of. And another one, the last limitation here is this kind of confusing array of point solutions. There are a lot of different providers that have solved for a lot of different use cases, and it can just be overwhelming to take on so many different providers in so many different places. It's hard to remember all of your logins or when to use which one, or even track how much you're paying each one, right? You have monthly fees for each employee that you have across 15 different vendors. That can definitely be overwhelming, and it's really hard to keep track of which ones are actually bringing value, which ones are worth keeping around, and which ones aren't. I think we want to go to the next slide here. Let's actually stay back on the previous slide. So quickly, related to what I was just discussing, to quickly chat over how to think about bringing on one of these vendors in this really complicated space. Most important first step, define the business objectives. Do you want to define what are the specific challenges you're facing that AI might be able to address? And then you want to prioritize use cases. And you want to prioritize these based on both the impact versus the complexity. So are you bringing on a really complicated software that's going to have small impact? Even if it has a cool demo, maybe not worth bringing that on. You want to prioritize having a huge impact without bringing on a lot of operational burden or complexity or opportunity for user error into your system. Step 2 here is going to be requirements gathering. So you want to understand what your security requirements are, understand what your compliance requirements are, understand what the technical requirements are. And then once you've put together your requirements and you've put together your data objective, that's when you go into a vendor assessment. And so this is when you want to be doing your technical and performance evaluation. You want to understand how it will integrate and scale with your practice. You also want to understand how will they support you? How will they train your staff to use you? What is the roadmap for growth? And then as a final step here, understanding the total cost of ownership. So this looks like understanding, hey, is this a subscription-based model? Is this usage-based? Am I going to be paying this forever? What are hidden fees? And you want to take that total cost of ownership and map it back to that impact assessment that you've done. And that's how you decide whether or not to bring on one of these vendors and make sure that you don't end up with 20 different vendors that you're paying monthly fees to because they had a flashy AI demo. All right, next slide. So here we have this slide. The future is both human and agentic. You might hear people saying the future is agentic. I would take a stand and say there has to be humans involved in the process. We work the human touch is a really important part of the work that we do, especially for the folks that we work for and work with. Having that empathy, having that human touch and that human connection is a really important part of the experience and of building your firm and of building trust within your firm. And so thinking about how to include AI in that process and how to get all the benefits of scaling and of automation without losing sight of the most important part, which is going to be the client, is something to really think about as you think about adopting tools and adopting AI into your process.
Thank you,
Thanks, everyone.
Ben.
I'll hand it back to Viraj.
I'll talk a little bit about what we've seen in terms of how do you take the tech that Ben laid out, how you take the problems that Ryan laid out about his practice and kind of marry them into something that looks like up-leveled pre-litigation operations. I'm going to double check Q&A just to see if there's anything. Melvin has a bunch of really good questions, which we will. Isaiah, I'm going to cover yours and we'd like to talk through a little bit of Finch at the end. And Melvin, I think, are there any AI-powered case management systems? Ben, just because you just did the, we've kind of played with as many of the CMSs and practice management systems as we could. You want to give your take on the AI-powered CMS?
Yeah, I'll say that. So we actually have we offer an integration with Filevine, and we actually have spent a lot of time chatting with the Filevine folks, and they have a bunch of AI tools there that are pretty good at a lot of what they do. So that's the one that we're most personally familiar with.
Yeah, and I think it is one to Ben's earlier point where like every practice management system is kind of playing some form of like catch up or integrate with as much of the kind of like AI functionality they would like to have as possible. So I think you'll see that landscape change a lot over the next 6 months, but Filevine is probably the most far ahead so far in terms of being AI enabled all the way through. So I will say some of these are stolen from like what I usually bring into a Finch pitch deck or like a sales deck. My objective here is mainly to show how we think about up-leveled operations, not to pitch Finch. So you'll see certain moments where I kind of call it, this is how we do it, but happy to answer questions about how you might do it on your own as well. Generally, the premise of if you were to have that we take is there's a lot of admin work involved in pre-litigation. And pre-litigation especially feels like a place where if you were to solve that admin work, as kind of Hecht had alluded to, he would be able to focus more time on litigation and on growth and taking new cases in. Usually folks we talk to fall into see at least one of these problems resonate with them, but the outcome is probably harder than ever to own, operate, and scale a law firm profitably. We see a few of these different issues. We see competition being fiercer than ever and margins being tighter. There are national firms and private equity spending billions of dollars in advertising, and we're seeing cost per case acquisition increasing, which like makes the margins a little tougher to make work, especially on some lower value cases. I hear from almost everyone that they have like one paralegal in their life that is worth their weight in gold, but that hiring, training, and retaining the great staff can be really difficult. We see up to 60% turnover rates at the average firm. We know that 40% of all support staff are going to age out and retire in the next 5 years. And I think there was a question about offshore, but offshore and remote staffing solutions are great and they're cost effective. They just haven't really panned out to be quite as trustworthy as folks you can kind of observe and are US based. And Ben kind of alluded to this, but AI holds a lot of promise to help rise all boats, but is not a silver bullet yet. There's security, baseline concerns, hallucinations. And we've looked at, I think there's a lot of solutions folks have seen on that market and in that map earlier for generating documents, but just a fraction of the work in your firm is going to be generating those documents. It's a lot of phone calls, faxes, kind of this like connective tissue of workflow. Probably familiar terms on here, or like you all are spending some amount of hours per week going to each one of these things, but at least half of time on average for PI practices and going to admin work and client comms. The majority of this happens in pre-litigation. And the impact hits both top and bottom line. Bottom line is, yes, of course, you're going to have to pay staff to help you scale and increase your capacity and take on more cases. But the top line is maybe the bigger one by an order of magnitude, which is the time you are spending on admin work can result in missed revenue from the cases you don't end up taking. So all that being said, the vision of Finch and the vision I think every firm should run, whether they're using us or developing it in-house, which major props to developing it in-house as well, is pre-litigation should feel so good and like a playbook that it runs itself. And they should feel like a healthy mix of humans at the right moments, especially client interaction, and then automation where it makes sense, where there's a redundant rote task. So as an example of what we do when we pair with a new firm is we assign a dedicated team that these are the humans that will power certain aspects of pre-litigation. These are real folks who we work with out of New York, by the way. But folks like Michelle, who'll have 14 years of plaintiff and defense PI experience, who will be paralegals that focus entirely on communication with clients. Someone like Cole will come in, he managed 75 paralegals at Morgan & Morgan. He'll be an operations lead or kind of be your account manager who works with you. And someone like Adam is a case manager, former attorney, powerhouse of keeping cases moving, spends most of his time working with third parties, not with clients. And I'll spend most of my time on this slide, which I'll just kind of talk through what our process looks like from intake to demand. So how do we take the glimpses you saw from Ben on how this process works and turn it into a workflow? We firmly believe that intake calls today should be done by humans. This is a moment of trust building and connection for someone who's been usually through one of the worst injuries or moments of their life. And they're looking to be heard and empathized with and believed and be told what the right path to success is. And so humans do that much better than AI will for at least the foreseeable future. And so where the technology gives you leverage is transcribing those details, adding them to the CMS so that you aren't doing data entry, and then summarizing those so that if you have an intake team that's taking this case, but if AI is listening on, it can help give you a summary that you would trust to make sure you're saying yes to the right cases, to flagging red flags such as, hey, this might be past the statute of limitations, or not an incredibly trustworthy tone from this particular client. Yellow flags like the client's a minor, there's going to be a little more involvement here with parents. And then green flags too, like damages are really big or liability is incredibly clear. Right after an intake call, everyone should have some form of an SLA for the next 3 things happening within short order. We do these within 4 hours, for example. Is claims should be set up. So we'll use voice AI to call adjusters, save the 45 minutes you might spend on hold with Geico, and either open a claim up, or if there's already a claim, then get the claim number and get adjuster information that can be used to auto-generate letters of representation. On the medical record side, you probably extracted from that intake call where someone went to the ER and whether there was an ambulance or any emergency medical service that helped get them there. And so within ideally 30 minutes after, you should go submit requests to all of those medical facilities, both for records and bills. As you kind of saw from the call Ben played, whenever we're working with a new emergency room that we haven't worked with before, we'll place a call to figure out when then there's additional billing requests that we need to make, for example, radiology, physicians, et cetera. We have found the most reliable method of automating getting medical records is going to be HIPAA individual right to access. So we send that directive over rather than a HIPAA off. It just has backing from OCR and ends up being adhered to 95% of the time on our end within 30 days. We kind of get these in median within 12 days, these records. And we'll send those. What an amazing paralegal or case manager does is they will send the record request, but they will follow up the next day. They'll place a call. They'll call the day after. They'll be a little annoying to nudge the thing along, and that's what keeps cases moving. And we do the same with voice AI. And then police reports will be kind of what we just alluded to, where should be able to pull those off of websites online with computer use agents. So you're getting those ideally every morning, scanning to see if those are available and taking them in. And so most of the leverage we're talking about here from tech comes in setting up claims, medical records, and police reports, all the case setup work, which you're largely going to follow a really formulaic process to go get those accomplished. Between that and demand, you're in treatment mode. And again, we will default to a very human approach here. This is you want to keep a pulse on adherence and you want to check in with a client to see if there's anything worth escalating. We do that with paralegals manually. So we don't have a ton of automation there. Where we're starting to is kind of draft very thoughtful texts that our paralegals edit before sending that are to check in with clients. This will reference the treatment they went to last week, reference anything relevant from their history or comms they've made inbound. And then we finally get to a demand, which we've alluded to. We will take a first draft with AI, review it with a human, looking at citations and proofreading carefully to then share with your team. I'm going to double check the Q&A just to see if there's anything on this page. How long is the turnaround time for human letter demand generation? Our SLO or objective is within 72 hours. So that means usually the demand, the first draft done by AI is done very quickly. And within 72 hours, we're able to kind of triage, follow up on any loose ends or missing pieces, then get you a revision. And then Melvin asked, how does your system pay for records? Yes, they can ask, but they won't send without payment. When we're working with a firm, they typically have a budget, which they'll give us of hey, anything under $50, just feel free to say yes to. And so we will auto we'll pay that out of our budget, and then we'll invoice at the end of the month for any of those case expenses. They get logged in a way that you can pass those on to a client at the end of a case. Anything above, we'll do a manual check-in before we end up taking those in. I'll say that like maybe my lesson from a lot of the Ben alluded to how hard change management can be. I think it's especially hard when you have a team of case managers and paralegals who are very used to their workflow. And if they're really good at their job, they'll be very, very comfortable in their workflow. And so as much as possible, if you can find a way to use your existing tools without changing the way you work, find solutions that integrate well with them. So there's no new tools to learn. We, for example, play well with all of these just to make sure that this is not an additional tool that you have to use as an attorney or that you'd have to get your staff to use, and keep the interface as simple as assigning tasks in, for example, file by us. Some other thoughts that just to keep in mind as you're developing your playbook. There's a risk to outsourcing, and that risk is that like you now have somebody else representing your brand to clients. And so as much as possible, if you're looking at those solutions, whether that is like tech vendors or whether that's offshoring, think about how to make sure that any of those vendors feel like an extension of your firm. As examples of what we'll do with a lot of firms is we'll use email addresses that have the domain of that firm. So when we're emailing out, it'll send from our paralegal's name, Michelle at hechtlawfirm.com. We'll get local numbers that whenever clients are getting called, they look like they're being called from local area rather than from New York, where I happen to live. And folks like plug into the tools you're already using. We covered CMS, but also Teams or Slack or whatever you happen to use there. Ben alluded to think about payment and like think about like what aligns to the way that you run your business. We, for example, charge on work completed, not on hours, so that if there's any sort of failure of the tech that we had to spend more human hours on, we're incurring that cost rather than firms incurring that cost. Think about tools where there's options to defer payment until settlement. We work with a great company called JurisPay that actually works with a ton of personal injury firms where what they do is they'll help take your tech vendor costs and defer it until settlement. So for a premium, you can pay them only when the case settles. Think about itemization and the right elements here that you would actually pass case costs along out of the total outcome of a case. And think about security. You want to like make sure that you're working with vendors that are SOC 2 compliant, that are protecting your PII and not sharing it back for training with third parties. So those are kind of three things to keep top of mind. Ryan actually introduced us to our friend Locke, who runs the Dang Law Group out in Austin. Locke has built a practice that is catered especially to the Southeast Asian community and the Hispanic community in Austin. And just as we think about bigger firms, what's really important to him is that we integrate deeply. And so just as an example, drawing on what we talked about on the last slide, documents make sure they're in their CMS, updates are sent to their team's account, Finch Paralegal email from a Dang Law Group email account to make sure that there's no gap between what their staff does and what our staff does. And clients aren't interacting with this other thing called Finch or this other like tool that they now need to grok and learn as well, in addition to their staff. This is Bindra law. I should have said Hecht Law. But as an instance of how we work, I think that like if you haven't already done some version of take your SOP and write it down, I think that in this new age it'll be more and more helpful too. Like as these tools exist, they should amplify what you do well. You shouldn't be taking their process and try to retrofit it into how your firm operates. And so if you haven't written a version of your playbook, we strongly recommend trying to. When we work with firms in the first 60 days, we write it for them. So we'll do like onboarding with them, learn how they work and work their cases so that we keep adding to it. But especially given how much this landscape is changing over time, then you want to make sure that it is adding on to what you already do well and not replacing it. The danger of automation we've talked about, one of the biggest ones is if it introduces more of a gap between you and your clients. And you want to make sure that it's serving them well such that they continue to say positive things about you. They refer friends and family members when they're in a bind. You want to make sure that is true. And so ensure that this playbook is something that you would defend and be excited to run 20 times over. We're near the end. I think we're going to pause pretty soon for Q&A. And I know there's a lot of questions already in the chat, so we'll go and address those. But just in wrapping up, I want to say thank you for having us. We're always around to talk pre-lit. Three of us are 100% dedicated to being a resource and a sounding board on AI and not just pitching Finch. We're not a fit for every firm. We work really well with growing firms, not with the like replace your staff firms. And so like, if you have any questions about AI, if you have any other questions in the chat about like tool A or tool B, we've tried all of them in our pursuit of building Finch. So we're happy to talk through them. We've alluded to this before, but we will be in Sun Valley, Idaho. And so really excited to meet folks in person. If you have any questions, bring them there. And just if you do end up wanting to explore Finch or think it might be a fit, we're doing a free month for Connectionology members. So feel free to learn more at finchlegal.com or set up time with us. But let me pause there and go out of the slide deck and we'll do questions and answers.
And actually, Viraj, before we get to all of the questions, we're going to take one last break because I'm going to bring in two of our partners, and that'll give everybody a chance to think of anything else that they want to ask. I wanted to bring in Cody with Fox AE. I think he is fresh off of a flight from Israel, if that is right, Cody, but we are so glad that you're here with us. And we're so happy to be back doing these webinars again. Whenever there's like big conferences going on, we take a little break, with the webinars, but it's so nice doing these for all of you guys every single week. But Cody, you guys do amazing work over at your company. Everything from animations, graphics, demonstratives. And John Romano, like I said, he raves about you guys. I know you work on a lot of trials together. You work with Mark Lanier. You work with like all these incredible trial lawyers. So it's awesome to have you with us.
Yeah, thanks, Ginger, and thanks for this webinar, guys. It's keeping it going, keeping people on their toes, and like getting information accessible. That's like we're a communication company. Getting all information and getting it refined and accessible. Wow, that almost sounds like AI, doesn't it? Where you could take vast amounts of information, condense it, get exactly what you need. And this can also be achieved visually. And so this is something that Mark Lanier used at his conference during his presentation. I'm going to show you that in just a second. And this was actually a John Romano case. And so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and optimize it for video sharing. And this really like kind of lays out pretty much everything that we do. So first, there's an improper beam design. Okay. Well, what caused the collapse and what was the right way and the wrong way? Psychologists call this contrast theory. When your eye can visually see, oh, this is the wrong way, and then your eye can visually see right across, wait a second, that's the right way? That's what the beam should have held, all of those people. But instead, the engineer improperly designed the beam smaller. And so when he did that, it was the wrong beam design. You see how we're taking a lot of technical jargon and making it easy? Well, what happens when you've got a wrong beam design? Is that such a big deal? I mean, everybody makes mistakes, right? Well, in this case, it was a huge deal. And so what we can also do is take the information, unclear information, like a video recording, and then we 3D model it based on the plans and the engineering design and all of that to make an intuitive understanding of what happened. So the beam design wasn't strong enough, and this is what happened. Unfortunately, this person is a paraplegic. And so that mechanism of injury, it compressed the spinal cord. But don't take my word for it. Let's look at the CT scans. So we build this up. By the way, these are admitted many times as evidence, not just demonstratives, because they're 3D replications of the actual injury. And then when you cut that in half, you can actually see where it impedes on the spine. And that compression is now, there's no electrical signals going to the legs now. And so that's what happens when you improperly design a beam in this particular scenario. And so just like AI or whatever, having graphics or even, simplistic, minimalistic slides, whatever it is, these kinds of things that you can take vast amounts of information and simplify it and get to the minimalistic argument that you're trying to convey, that's what we do.
Awesome. And listen, you've got to tell everybody about Fox Prime.
Oh, yeah. So you may be thinking like, okay, that's great, Cody, but like that's great if you've got some mega case, right? But my cases aren't big, or maybe I've got one big case and 100 small cases or nine smaller cases that don't justify this kind of budget. We've got a thing called Fox Prime that has literally every disc bulge at every single cervical level, lumbar level surgeries that you could buy out of the box starting at like a couple $100. And so what we want to do is help you. And then when you get that big case, uh, hey, look, give us a call or just keep using the stock stuff. It doesn't matter. John Romano uses the stock stuff that were, just a couple $100 alongside this really intricate custom animation. So they're interchangeable. They can be used and, together. So thanks for bringing that up, Ginger.
Absolutely. And I know that you've been known to work throughout the night, long hours sometimes, but this is such a great way if somebody needs something quick, they can get it instantly. So you guys are doing great stuff over there, and we love working with your team, Cody.
Hey, thanks. It's just like Amazon Prime, except it's Fox Prime for lawyers, and you can just buy it, get it instantly. You don't even have to wait for delivery time.
Nice. Put that website in the chat for everybody as well, okay?
You bet. Hey, thanks,
All right.
guys.
Yep, and we'll see you back here again. We got some more webinars this week. We've got one on Thursday, which is going to be about trucking. I hope that everybody's going to sign up for that one. And then also we've got another AI webinar on Friday with John Romano coming in and Jennifer Seymour. So you can tell you guys it's a hot topic. Thanks for being with us, Cody. We'll see you soon, okay?
Hey, I'll see you in Idaho and
Yes,
hopefully
sir.
everybody else.
It's going to be fun. And
See-
last but not least, we got Sam coming in. We work with so many cool companies here at Connectionology. I'm blown away. Even just working with like Ben and Viraj with Finch and having them come out is going to be so much fun. But Sam works for a company called Strategic, and I have known this company for years. I mean, when I started working with AHA, I think they were one of the first companies I met. I met Paul, who is Sam's dad, when I lived in Atlanta, Georgia, and I worked for AJ, worked out of the Georgia trial lawyer's office, and they came on in, and I was blown away because they are so good at finding all these ex-employees for all these companies, and they're able to find them when you don't even think they existed. So it's pretty cool. I'm gonna let Sam tell you a little bit more about it.
Yeah.
Good to see you, Sam.
Good to see you too, Ginger. My name is Sam Littrell. You may have seen me on these calls before. I feel a little bit different today because I actually shaved my head yesterday, and feel kind of a little bit insecure about it. I'm not gonna lie, but I've been thinning for a little while, and I went ahead and pulled the plunge. So, um, our company, Strategic, really has a specialty in finding former employees. And traditionally, how that works is someone will come to me and they'll say, "Hey, Sam, I'm suing this company. I believe people who held X, Y, and Z job titles from, let's say, 2015 to 2018 are going to hold some pretty relevant knowledge in my case of either, let's say, policies and procedures, potential negligence, corporate wrongdoing, really you name it, having some kind of insider knowledge that could be game changing. And so, what we do with really that criteria is we help compile a list of former employees that meet that criteria. And so typically we've found a kind of a formulaic way to develop these what we would call an EAL. An EAL is just an acronym for ex employee list. And generally how that works is we get you about 30 to 40 leads of former employees who held those job titles, who were there during those years that would be relevant for your case. And we would deliver that to you with their names, their job titles, their tenures with the company, and then, of course, their active confirmed phone numbers. I just say active confirmed because sometimes I think recently I've had a few questions where clients have asked me, is that just kind of a random phone number or is that actually confirmed? And we confirm those before we send those your way. And so that's kind of step one in our process. What we do with that information is we send that to you, and then you kind of have I guess, a plethora of options from there. If either some of our clients are kind of more hands-on, they take these calls, they learn from these people, the inside stories. And some of our clients, let's say about half of our clients, rehire us to actually interview these folks, learn the stories, deliver those stories to you, and then connect you with that client. So kind of weed through all the mess in order to get you some primetime folks who have that insider knowledge, want to work with you, and could be really game changing for your case. So we work on really cases all across the board. We do probably about 90% personal injury cases, and we also do some wage and hour class action work. With the personal injury stuff, we do a lot of trucking cases, finding former drivers, managers, loaders who could talk about policies and procedures. We do a lot of nursing home work with finding from our LPNs, RNs, aides, you name it, who maybe were there during some times of transition and could talk about really the corporate structure. And really, honestly, if you name it, premises liability, product liability, let's see, really honestly, any case that where a corporate, even a smaller entity could have some, former employees that the defense is not necessarily giving you up front. We kind of come in and help you find information that you're not going to find in traditional discovery without the aid of the defense. And that's really what we do. So if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. If you've got a big case or a smaller case that we can work on, we can talk about how we get you rolling on that.
I'm always blown away when I hear stories about some of the cases that you're working on, some of the attorneys that I know, and I'm just like, wow. And it's like you give it in one nice like report, you're like, here it is. It's like having gold put on your desk, It's pretty
Yep.
cool. Thank you so much for all that you do, though. Sam, please put your information in the chat box so everybody can reach out to you. And then we're going to see you in 2 weeks as well.
Well,
So looking forward to it.
sweet. Thanks, guys.
All right. We'll see you back on Thursday. All right, Viraj, I think there are some questions that have come in. Would we like to go ahead and ask those now and answer them?
Let's do it and keep them coming as long as are we good till 10 more minutes, 11 more minutes? Great.
Exactly. You got time.
As a precursor, feel free to make them not at all about Finch. We're happy to talk about Finch, but we're happy to talk about any of I have this problem in my practice, or what AI tool is great, or have you guys tried X kind of thing. We've tried a little bit of everything, but
Viraj also
we'll go
has
through
a background as a bartender, so if you have any questions around making drinks, he'd be a great resource for that as well.
I did that for 4 months before starting this. Ben and I were also at a game show before starting this, so if you have any questions about getting on game shows, happy to do that. But we'll start here, which is Melvin. I think we answered the question: where does your system get its information such as jury verdicts? We tend to use Lexis. That's been our tool of choice. But we've experimented with, for example, like a lot of the AI tools do some like manual scraping online, and we'll be able to find. So we complement with that, but we're always gut checking any verdict analysis in Lexis as well. Melvin also asked about, so glad you made the point about human intervention. What would you say is the main strength of both you and EvenUp over the rest, or your people offshore? I know that EvenUp has a mix, and I do think they tout the same thing we do, which is, hey, like you should really make sure these things are reviewed by a person before just trusting the blind output. I think they're concerned about the same output of what happened in the worst case where you hand something over that like hallucinated. We haven't yet gone the offshore angle. I think we've been really excited about using enough leverage, like enough technology can actually make the folks who are amazing and have done this in the US for a long time, the like 14 plus years, like Michelle, much more accessible to the point where the cost looks a lot like offshore. And so we've been doing that instead so far. Isaiah, does your file have to be uploaded to Finch? So there's no tool on Finch. Yeah, but so we can almost do anything. If you want to text us files, you can do that. If you want to email us, we can do that. If you have them in CasePeer, Litify, FileVibe, whatever you use, we're happy to go pull them there. If you have everything in OneDrive, SharePoint, we're happy to like have access and go pull them there. I think one of the benefits of us having a human interface on top of just the tech is we're able to like really work with however your firm works rather than necessarily have to force you to use a different tool. Melvin asked about, I'm going to jump to Elliot's after, but Melvin asked what's a good AI-powered dictation software? Then any gut? I feel like you've used a bunch of those.
Yeah, it's actually a pet peeve of mine that there's not a good benchmark for what is the best tool here. So honestly, I think it's really a matter of going and trying them out. I'll say that we use DeepGram related to the pace of change here. They just launched a new model about a month ago that does a really good job for us. They provide tools that are specifically good on phone calls, specific models for phone calls, for example. So we've found the most success with them. But I will say I have been pushing a couple of these companies in my conversations with them to introduce a shared benchmark.
Melvin asked again, what was the name? DeepGram. So DEEP. Did I put too many E's? DEEPGRAM. So feel free to look it up, but I answered in line as well, Melvin. So you have that in the answered section. Pricing. I'll be honest with everyone. We launched publicly after we were in beta for a long time. We did this with folks like Hecht so that we could make sure this is a product that worked really well before we went to market with it. It's why you might not have seen us at conferences or anything else. So that does mean that we're still like iterating into the exact pricing, and we're hoping to bring it down over time as we get more and more automation out of the system. But what this looks like is that firms of any size are going to pay less than $1,000 per case on this. Again, parts of those there's like leverage from there's itemization that will allow you to pass on the right amounts that make sense to you in case costs out of the end of the case as well. But yes, as we do more and more cases with the firm, those prices tend to come down. It mainly comes down because we're able to automate much more of this process. Like if we get your playbook down and we can start running that on more and more cases, we're usually able to get more leverage from the technology, and that brings the prices down as well. But happy to, with anyone who's curious, kind of talk about your firm and size and how you operate. Things are always different a little bit on firm because some folks are like, hey, we do the intake and then you hand it off to us, or you already have case managers you love, so we augment them. So there's just a bunch of different permutations, but happy to, if you're curious to explore what that looks like, feel free to set up a demo on our website and we'll walk you through it. If attorney does an initial interview, how can this get into? Donna, great question. Kind of alluded to it. We don't feel the need to do intake for everyone. And so this means if you already have a great intake process, or you're in hey, I want to make sure I'm talking to every client before they come in the door. We don't want to be a barrier between you and a client. And so you should feel free to do that. And often what happens is you end up signing the client because you're great and persuasive and trust building. And then you'll introduce them to your Finch paralegal, who will often do more of like an onboarding or like follow-up call with them immediately after that. That'll be where then we have AI listen to, and we're trying to pull all of that like data that we're going to need for case setup and medical records and police records. But we work very well with however you operate. And if there's parts of your process you want to keep, our objective is not to change that. Per case model versus monthly. We operate on a per case model. The why is if you use us on more cases, there's humans doing work on each one of those cases. We're doing the intake and we're doing the like follow-up treatment check-ins. And so like, because we believe it's a human plus tech model, if you send us more cases, we're going to be doing more work on those cases. And so we'll have costs associated with it. So it's a per case model. But again, the flip of that is it's not going to be a hourly model. So that means people have all probably had those examples of cases where a client is very demanding, or there's like a lot more investigation work required, or you're spending a lot of time trying to run down what insurance coverage looks like. We're not going to charge more on those. We are going to end up like spending the extra hours to make sure those go well. And so that kind of aligns more to this per case pricing model rather than an hourly model. I feel like did I miss any questions?
Nope, I think you got them all.
No bartending, none. No one had a favorite drink question. I'm surprised.
Except for now, I have to know, what game show were you guys on? How did you meet? Is that how you met?
Ben and I fortunately met 12 years ago in college, but we happened to be on a show called Beat Shazam. So if anyone watches that on Fox and knows of it, Jamie Foxx hosts it. And it is you try to guess the name of the song before other teams can guess it. And so we flew to Ireland was it 2023, Ben? 2023
Yes.
To film that episode. I won't spoil how we did. Oh, Kim says it's a great show. Fantastic. Kim, if you watch I want to say it's season 6, episode 5, and it's on Tubi TV. And if anyone watches it, I'm not going to spoil how we did. So feel free to go watch it and report back.
To know who can find that for me and send it to me like ASAP, because we're going to share it with everyone. And Cody Roberts, I got my money on Cody, so he better come through.
Viraj, you got a question. What's in a sidecar?
Oh, cognac, triple sec, lemon juice. That sound right? Usually 2 ounce, 0.75, 0.75. Is that the right ratio? Melvin, did I get it right?
We'll have
I
to
hope he
find
says
out.
yes. I hope he says yes.
And Raj, we'll
All
have to
right.
welcome you back because I remember talking with Charles doing a sort of like a fire chat type webinar like one evening, and maybe we do it like virtually where everybody grabs their favorite beverage. You could be there to help. We could come up with something really special, but bring in a lot of these attorneys that John knows as well and his friends who've been doing this for like 50 years, 60 years, and do like a special fireside chat webinar one evening when everybody's free. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
I would love that. I was fortunate enough to, if folks happen to know, Bob Simon and Maura Fiore, they host Bourbon of Proof, and
Yes.
they had me on, and that episode I think drops tomorrow. But I got to mix in my favorite cocktail, so I won't spoil what my favorite cocktail is. But we got to do the version of mixed cocktails and drink to just posture about life and pre-litigation and game shows. So it was a good time.
Well,
Happy to
that's
do that. Be fun.
fantastic. And speaking of winners, if anyone has any last minute questions, now's the time. But I'm going to bring in Ted with HMR, who's going to do our special coffee winner today. And what is so exciting is that not only is this winner going to get 2 bags of this freshly roasted Costa Rican coffee, they get a coffee mug from HMR. Also going to win a registration from us here at Connectionology, and they can use it towards our Idaho TBI seminar, or they can use it for our depositions, our trial seminar coming up in November in Texas. And we are going to give away a winner for each of our webinars the rest of this month. So you guys try to tune in, register, be with us, and maybe you'll get a chance to win as well. But Ted, it is great to see you. We love working with you guys at HMR, and I think you've probably been on 400 and maybe 49 of the webinars. You've been with
Whole
me the
lot,
entire time.
a whole lot of coffee, a whole lot of caffeine.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for being here with us. And we look forward to seeing HMR and all the guys that you guys work with in Idaho in 2 weeks as well. Who's the lucky winner today?
Yes, I'm excited to announce a new name. So it's Chevo Pastrano out of Kyle, Texas is our big winner today. So congratulations.
Congratulations, Chevo. Well, that's wonderful. I'm excited that he won the coffee and the seminar, and we will definitely reach out to him after this webinar, Ted, to make sure that he gets his great prize. Good thing is, if he can't make it to either seminar, he can give that away to another trial or a friend of his, or it goes on to the next winner. So we will do that and find out and see how it goes. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah,
And hope you enjoyed the webinar as well, Ted.
Oh, it was fantastic. So I was on for the whole thing, and I'm definitely interested in AI as well. So I mean, it was great, great, great. So.
Well, we look forward to seeing you back here again on Thursday. Is there any announcements that you need to make while we are all here together? Any upcoming parties or any seminars, things that people should know about?
Well, we do have, so Lanier's coming up, what is it, mid-May or mid-June. And we'll be having our annual HMR After Dark party there, and Fox AE is joining us. Yeah, so I see Viraj. So it's a fantastic time. So we're gonna have a blast. Same place as last year. We've been there. This will be 5 years in a row. Literally across the street from the conference venue. It's called the Grotto. Tons of fun. So same cigar roller. He was such a blast last year. So same guy coming in from Austin. So be a great time, but be a lot of fun. So we'll have to have cigars at Connectionology here in Texas.
Yes, we definitely will. And I hope that you'll be able to make it, Ted. I know that we've got Richard's coming. No, Richard's coming, as well as Aaron. They're going to be with us in Idaho.
Richard and Aaron will be in Idaho, yep.
But we look forward to seeing who's coming with us to Texas. So I hope you can make it
Blue.
too.
Yeah, Blue will be there with you in Texas. And Mike Scott.
Well, thank you so much for all that you do. And thank you again for being here to announce these winners day in, day out. We appreciate you.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's always great to join you guys.
All right, Ted, we'll see you here soon. And I did see a question just come in from Donna about whether or not this webinar has been recorded, and the answer is yes. We are going to be putting this on our Connectionology YouTube channel, so you guys can go back and view it. You can share it with your colleagues, And I also wanted to say there's some other webinars that we have listed on our Connectionology YouTube channel that you can watch as well. We don't typically record them because a lot of information is very sensitive, but for a webinar like this, we want to be able to share the knowledge with everybody and have you get a chance to go back and review it and have a chance to watch it. So this one will be recorded and you'll have a chance to rewatch it. Viraj, am I missing any other questions that have come in?
No, I think I did answer what goes into a Negroni, but I think otherwise we're good.
All right, guys. Well, we will see you back here again on Thursday, and it's going to be a trucking webinar. I'm very excited. If you've heard of Freed and Goldberg, this amazing trucking firm out of Atlanta, Georgia, you know, we work a lot with Joe Freed, but we have his partner, Michael Goldberg, who's coming in for this incredible trucking webinar. So whether or not you take on those cases or not, this is such a great educational program, and I highly recommend you guys sign up. So I'll see you back here at 3 o'clock on Thursday, and you guys have a wonderful afternoon. It's good to be back. Thank you so much to Ryan. Thank you, Ben and Viraj. Do you guys have any last minute comments you'd like to make before we head out?
Finch is great.
Hecht is great. Referring your cases. No, appreciate you all. Incredibly welcoming community, and excited to see some folks live in Idaho. Thank you.
Perfect.
There's a question for contact info, which would likely you can just email Viraj at finchlegal.com.
Yes, I wanted to let you guys know, I'm going to email you everybody's contact information in a few moments so you can stay in touch with our speakers and our partners. And then also, if you want a copy of any of the slides that you saw today, you'll be able to email Viraj and get a copy of those. And again, if you happen to be in New York City, go see Ben, go see Viraj. If you happen to be in Austin, Texas, call Ryan up. I think that's what's so great about Connectionology is you guys get a chance to meet some amazing people from around the country, and they are so genuine that they would love to spend time with you. So thanks again, guys. See you back here on Thursday. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.